By Lin Dong's estimations, Little Flame at this stage was probably evenly matched against a tempered body 5th layer practitioner. Little Flame's growth rate had exceeded Lin Jintian and the rest's imagination. However, Lin Dong did not think that it was strange because he had been feeding the little fellow with the stone talisman Ling liquid every day. Sometimes, he even used the Ling liquid to bathe it. If Lin Jintian and the rest knew about the kind of treatment, they would probably vomit blood. Little Flame allowed Lin Dong to gently and intimately cradle itself in his arms. After all, Lin Dong was the first person that it saw when it opened its eyes for the first time, and after this 1 month of rearing, it had subconsciously regarded Lin Dong as its closest kin. When demonic beasts mature, they become fierce and vicious. However, if one trains them appropriately from when they are young, they would become a most loyal companion. You greedy little fellow. Seeing Little Flame acting coquettishly, Lin Dong helplessly shook his head. He removed a bottle from his clothes and tipped it over, dripping 2 drops of stone talisman Ling liquid into Little Flame's mouth. After the stone talisman Ling liquid entered its mouth, Little Flame stuck out its tongue in satisfaction and excitedly licked Lin Dong's face. It's time to head home. That's all you are getting today. As he kept the bottle, Lin Dong grabbed Little Flame and placed it on his shoulder, before he immediately turned and swiftly ran out of the woods. Little Flame's joyful little squeals rang throughout the forest. The moon was like a silver plate that hung in the sky, enveloping the ground in cooling light. Inside her room, Qing Tan lay quietly on her bed with a thin blanket that was unable to conceal the curves of a young girl which had gradually grown bountiful and seductive. Beside the soundly sleeping Qing Tan, a figure sat cross-legged on the ground. Upon closer inspection, one could see that person was Lin Dong. However, right now, he was in no mood to sleep. Instead, he had a solemn expression on his face as he utilized Qing Yuan arts to continuously absorb the Yin energy from Qing Tan's body. After he advanced to earthly Yuan stage, Lin Dong needed a vast amount of Yin energy. However, he was not interested in the ordinary Yin energy that existed between heaven and earth. Hence, he could only turn to Qing Tan. After he discussed with Qing Tan, she finally nodded her head, rosy red with embarrassment. Since then, he would wait for Qing Tan to sleep every night before he sat beside her and trained for 2 hours. During these 2 hours, Lin Dong could shamelessly absorb all the Yin energy that he wanted from Qing Tan. For the first 1 or 2 days, Qing Tan felt a little uncomfortable. After all, she was still a girl and it felt unnatural to be sleeping while a boy sat beside her. However, she had complete faith in Lin Dong. Nonetheless, if word of this matter got out, it would still affect her dignity as a girl. After a few days, she gradually got used to the situation. In fact, she discovered that the Yin energy within her body that flared up from time to time had tamed down. So, she was better able to enjoy her sleep. With this benefit, Qing Tan decided not to resist anymore and grant this slightly overbearing request from Lin Dong. Huff. In that quiet room, Lin Dong deeply exhaled as he gently opened his tightly shut eyes. Feeling a faintly cold sensation emitted from his dantian, he let out a gentle smile. He then very carefully leaped off the bed and gazed at the young lady who was gently holding on to Little Flame as she slept. The gentle moonlight poured in from the window and shined on the young girl's peaceful and beautiful face. It was truly an extremely moving sight. After Lin Dong gently adjusted the blanket for Qing Tan, he silently left the room. Just as Lin Dong exited the room, the smile on the young girl's face turned a little sweeter. Chapter 52, Matters of the Family. Within the spacious and empty woods, a figure moved like a fierce tiger. 2 arms waved about and a deep blue yuan power surged. The traces of Yin energy within caused the dried leaves on the ground to be covered in frost. Thump thump thump. The figure urgently stepped forward and a ferocious punch landed on the huge tree before him. A powerful force straightaway jolted the huge tree. It was immediately uprooted and flew through the air, causing the sky to be filled with dirt, before finally crashing onto the ground with a loud bang. Lin Dong is the best. Nearby, a young lattice, who was clothed in light-colored clothes, beautiful voice sounded out as she saw the huge tree fall to the ground. Lin Dong chuckled and withdrew his fists. It had been 1.5 months since the hunting competition. During this time, he had trained diligently and with the aid of the stone talisman elixir pills, he had successfully advanced from the earthly yuan early stage to the middle stage. Also, the yuan power in his dantian had become increasingly vigorous and condensed due to absorbing the Yin energy from Qing Tan's body. Lin Dong guessed that even though he was currently at the earthly yuan middle stage, because of the assimilation of the Yin energy, he would be able to fend off even a earth yuan late stage expert. Furthermore, he had opened 5 channels during the half a month that he was learning Qing Yuan art. Thus his efficiency of absorbing yuan power was several times better than before. Overall, this past half a month of training was rather bountiful. Phew! Lin Dong grabbed a towel from one side and wiped off the sweat from his face. He then whistled towards the deep forest, and almost immediately, a loud tiger hiss sounded back in reply. A few minutes later, a fiery red shadow flew out of the forest and appeared before Lin Dong. Naturally, this was Little Flame. In a short half a month, its body had once again grown to twice its size. When it stood up, it was even able to reach Lin Dong's waist. Within its mouth, fangs had also begun to emerge. The current Little Flame was gradually developing the extraordinary air that a fire python tiger possessed. Some traces of an unknown beast's fur and blood could be seen in Little Flame's mouth. After all, Little Flame was a demonic beast, thus it innately had the instincts of a wild beast and needed to eat meat. Therefore, over this period of time, it would enter the deep forests by itself to prey on ferocious beasts. With Little Flame's present capabilities, even if it encountered a tempered body 8th layer practitioner or beast, it would be able to somehow deal with them. This kind of progress was not only due to the fact that it was a demonic beast, but more so because of Lin Dong's extremely luxuriant feeding habits. Little Flame, you're really naughty. Always appearing so dirty each time. When Qing Tan saw Little Flame, she scolded it in a low voice before using a coarse cloth to wipe at the traces of blood at the corner of Little Flame's mouth. To one side, Lin Dong laughed. He stroked Little Flame's head with his hand as he gazed at the latter's already considerably huge body. By right, Little Flame's rate of growth was really too quick. Even considering the aid from the stone talisman Ling liquid, it should not have matured so quickly. Perhaps this was the reason why the stone talisman had a special reaction towards Little Flame. Little Flame and the other fire python tigers are truly somewhat different. Right. Lin Donga, father has returned and is looking for you. As Lin Dong was muttering to himself, Qing Tan suddenly interjected. Oh? Father is back again? Hearing these words, Lin Dong was slightly gladdened. He nodded in acknowledgement as he whistled, bringing Little Flame with him as he dashed off. In the room, Lin Dong saw Lin Xiao, who he had not met for half a month. The latter also saw him, and a smile appeared on the father's originally somewhat haggard face. Lin Xiao gestured for Lin Dong to sit beside him and then sized up the latter for a moment before smiling. How many channels have you unlocked in Qingyuan art? 3. Lin Dong scratched his head while answering. Looks like Lin Xiao had learned from his past experiences and straightaway proceeded to ask about his son's progress. However, Lin Dong could not possibly tell his father that he had already unlocked 5 channels, else, it would be such a pain to explain again. At Lin Dong's words, Lin Xiao laughed bitterly and sighed. I was really asking for it. To think that he had spent a whole 3 months to unblock 4 channels, and now Lin Dong had already opened 3 channels in a mere half a month. There was truly no point in comparing them at all. Heh. Lin Dong chuckled as he patted Little Flame's head. The latter obediently lay flat on its stomach beside Lin Dong. He then looked towards his father and asked, Father, what have you been busy with recently? The few times I visited the manor, I found that grandfather and the rest did not look so good. Hearing Lin Dong speak of this matter, the smiling expression on Lin Xiao's face weakened as he sighed before saying, It's the goddamned Lei family. Those honorless bastards. Does it have to do with the Steelwood Manor? Lin Dong's eyes flashed as he probed. Yes. Lin Xiao nodded, a faint anger visible on his face as he replied, Those bastards, they had originally agreed to hand it over in half a month. Yet, it has already been 1.5 months and they have yet to deliver. Every time we send people to press them, they would intentionally avoid us. The gamble that day was made before countless people. The Lei family could not possibly dare to back out on their promise, right? Lin Dong frowned. If they really went back on the agreement, the reputation of the Lei family would be destroyed. To them, this was no small matter. They never said they are backing out, they are just incessantly dragging it out. Lin Xiao gritted his teeth and said, The steelwood produced by the Steelwood Manor was a rather big business of the Lei family. If their Lin family managed to obtain it, then it would undoubtedly be a huge haul. But now, the fatty meat that was about to reach their mouth was being held back by the Lei family. An action that left a bitter taste in anyone's mouth. Then what does grandfather and the rest plan to do? Lin Dong asked. Your grandfather has already instructed me to bring men to the Steelwood Manor tomorrow. If they are still not willing to hand it over, then we can only take it by force. Anyways, we are the ones who have been wronged. Lin Xiao replied. At these words, Lin Dong's heart slightly shivered. Looks like grandfather and the rest did not intend to endure it any further. This time, no matter if they were successful or not, they would have declared war on the Lei family. Thus, this operation was rather important to the Lin family. Father, let me tag along tomorrow. Lin Dong hesitated for a while before he suddenly asked. You're just a child. Embroiling yourself in these matters. Lin Xiao was startled, but before he could finish his words, he suddenly remembered that Lin Dong was already at earthly yuan stage. Even in the whole Lin family, this was regarded as a somewhat major power. As such, he swallowed the words he had wanted to say and hesitated. "Father, don't worry. I will take care of myself. Furthermore, sooner or later, I will have to experience these kind of things. After all, I am a part of the Lin family, even you cannot neglect a earthly yuan power practitioner." Lin Dong smiled as he reasoned. Lin Xiao involuntarily let out a dry laugh as he gazed at Lin Dong. After muttering to himself for a while, he finally nodded with a smile. "Okay then, you will follow me tomorrow, but don't make any reckless moves. Instead, concentrate on taking care of yourself." "Yes. I will go make some preparations, tomorrow we will leave together." When he saw Lin Xiao nod in agreement, Lin Dong immediately burst out in joy before hastily standing up and dashing out of the room. Behind him, Little Flame also crawled up and nimbly followed. Gazing at the backs of the human and tiger, Lin Xiao lightly smiled. Soon after, he withdrew his gaze as his smile turned icy cold. "Lei family, after suppressing my Lin family for so many years, it's finally time for payback." Chapter 53, Steelwood Manor. The next day, about 40 riders exited the main entrance of the Lin family estate orderly. Seated on the horses were all experts from the Lin family, and the two riding majestically at the head of this procession were Lin Xiao and Lin Ken. For this mission, the Lin family had sent out 2 heavenly yuan stage practitioners. From this, one could see the importance of the operation. Within the group of horses, a fiery red shadow was extremely eye-catching. With an awe-inspiring aura, this was naturally Little Flame, and at present, Lin Dong was seated on its back. The current physique of Little Flame was almost the same size as a normal tiger, more than enough to be ridden as a steed. And the strength of its legs and its speed was much better than a normal horse. After all, even though Little Flame was young, it was still a demonic beast. Since this little brat is also interested, you should bring him along too for experience and treat this as a practice. However, remember that nothing can happen to him, or else the both of you can forget about returning to see me. Just outside the entrance, Lin Jintian first looked towards Lin Dong, who was saddled on the back of his tiger, before turning his gaze to Lin Xiao and Lin Ken as he sternly warned them. "Fret not, father." Lin Ken smiled. With the protection of 2 heavenly yuan stage expert, within 50-kilometer radius around Qingyan town, there was no one able to harm even a single hair on Lin Dong. "Okay, remember to keep in constant contact and be careful. I will also pay attention to the Lei family on this front." Lin Jintian nodded as he said in a low voice. "Yes." Lin Xiao and Lin Ken both acknowledged by nodding their heads and then took a head count of their men. Without any more delays, they straightaway raised their horsewhips and turned to rush towards the outskirts of Qingyang town. "Little Flame, follow." Seeing that the operation had started, Lin Dong also lightly patted Little Flame. The latter let out a deep, low growl and stepped forward on all fours before speedily catching up to the group. As this flashy mount traveled across Qingyang town, it undoubtedly gave rise to disturbances. The gazes that looked towards the two were thick with envy. Steelwood Manor. A rather famous manor within the vicinity of Qingyang town. Steel wood was produced here in abundance, and this type of steel wood was just like quality steel. It was resistant to both water and fire, plus it was thick and strong, extremely suited for manufacturing weapons and construction purposes. Thus, this type of steel wood was relatively highly priced, combined with the fact that the Steelwood Manor was the only source of steel wood within a 50-kilometer radius. Therefore, all these years, the Lei family had grown extremely rich from the Steelwood Manor. If the Lin family managed to take over this Steelwood Manor, their profits for the year would at least double. On the other hand, losing one Steelwood Manor would cause some significant losses for the Lei family. It was half a day's journey to reach the Steelwood Manor from Qingyang town, and after a whole morning of riding, Lin Xiao and the rest finally reached the edge of the Steelwood Manor at noon. From the back of the tiger, Lin Dong gazed down the slope. At the end of the road, an exceedingly vast manor stood. With just one look, it was impossible to see where the manor ended. However, into the distance, some huge black trees were vaguely discernible. These were the unique resource of the Steelwood Manor, steel wood. The main entrance is tightly shut, looks like this will not go well. Lin Ken squinted at the manor door that was closed securely as he said in an indifferent manner. Lin Xiao lightly nodded in response before waving his hand. The Lin family members behind him quickly went on alert. Chong-chong sounds could be heard as cold steel was drawn on horseback. With cold expressions, the atmosphere surged with killing intent. At this sight, Lin Dong's fists involuntarily tightened up till his fingers turned a little white. This was the real world. All the fights he had experienced in the past was child's play compared to this genuine life or death situation. In this scene, there was no compromise with words, it was either your death or mine. Qining, take 2 people and protect Donger, move. Lin Xiao shouted in a low voice before drawing out his horsewhip and immediately dashing forward as yellow dirt rushed up to the skies. Da-da. Clatter of horse hooves. After Lin Xiao rushed forward, tens of trails of yellow dust also followed. In a few minutes, they appeared before the tightly shut manor door. Those arriving, halt. This is the Lei family manor. Without permission, no one can enter. When Lin Xiao and the rest reached the entrance to the manor, several flashes of cold steel being drawn could be seen from the towering wall of the manor as a person shouted to Lin Xiao and the rest below. Let the person in charge here come out. Today, our Lin family is here to take over the Steelwood Manor. Lin Xiao shouted in a low tone, using the vigorous yuan power to amplify his voice until it thundered across the whole manor. Heh, isn't your Lin family too impatient? If you want us to hand over the manor, first go to the Lei family residence to complete the procedures before returning here. On the manor wall, 2 figures suddenly appeared and a somewhat mocking voice sounded out. Lei Nuo and Lei Ying. Seeing the duo atop the manor wall, Lin Xiao's and Lin Ken's eyebrows slightly raised. These 2 were core members of the Lei family and they were both at Heavenly Yuan early stage. Looks like the Lei family was also on guard. Haha, brother Lin Xiao and brother Lin Ken, since our Lei family has already said that we will hand the Steelwood Manor over to your Lin family, we would naturally do so. Why do all of you have to be so anxious? How about this, wait another 5 days and our Lei family would officially hand over the Steelwood Manor to you all, without any more delays. How does that sound? From the top of the manor wall, a man in gray who had a somewhat long nose chuckled. Brother Lei Ying, you've already dragged this out for a month. Your words are hardly trustworthy now. Lin Ken retorted. There seems to be some other motive behind this delay? At the back of the group, after Lin Dong heard the Lei family's wrangling, his eyebrows involuntarily knitted together. He stared at Lei Ying and Lei Nuo and found that as the 2 were speaking, they could not help but glance towards the inside of the manor from the corners of their eyes. Uncle Qining, there seems to be something amiss, come with me. Lin Dong's eyes slightly flashed as he suddenly spoke to his guardian in a low voice. Young Master Lin Dong. At these words, Qining was stunned. Just as he intended to tell Lin Dong that it was better to just stay put, he cast a glance towards Little Flame and remembered that the youngster before him was no ignorant or naive child. After hesitating for a while, he waved his hand and stealthily beckoned his 2 other comrades to follow behind Lin Dong as they swiftly entered into the woods to one side. Uncle Qining, do you know any other way to enter the Steelwood Manor? As they entered the forest, Lin Dong softly inquired. Yes, the Steelwood Manor is too big, they could not possibly fortify every part of it. According to my knowledge, there are quite a few spots where we can sneak in. Qining muttered in reply. Go, let us first enter the inner manor to scout around. Be prepared to signal my father and the rest at any time. Lin Dong decisively instructed. This all right. Hearing that Lin Dong actually intended to infiltrate the manor, Qining was slightly shocked. However, when he thought about it, the 2 Heavenly Yuan stage experts were currently both stuck at the manor entrance. With their party's current strength, defending themselves was not a problem. Furthermore, since they were so near to the main force, as long as they fired a signal, Lin Xiao and the rest could easily reinforce them. Thus Qining nodded in agreement as he led the party onwards. A party of 4 men and 1 beast rapidly traveled through the forest. A long while later, they successfully crossed over an unmanned part of the wall and leapt into the manor. Inside the manor, everything looked to be quite peaceful. Lin Dong scanned the surroundings before silently running towards the area where the steelwood was planted. The steelwood were all grown in a designated area of the Steelwood Manor. However, when Lin Dong and his group sneaked into that area, they could not help but turn ashen-faced at the sight that was reflected in their eyes. These scumbags. As they gazed at the scene before their eyes, Qining gnashed his teeth and cursed in rage from beside Lin Dong. Chapter 54, Destruction. Before Lin Dong and the rest, what originally should be a populated steelwood growing district was now more than half empty. One after another, black wooden stumps protruded out of the ground. Numerous messy axe marks dotted what was left of a once magnificent tree. Clearly, this had been an extremely hasty job. Of course, what caused Lin Dong and his party to be ashen-faced was not the large portion of steel trees that had already been chopped down, but the fact that there were currently many figures hurriedly pouring pots of stinky, poisonous liquid into the ground. The Lei family. Not only did they cut down most of the already growing steel trees, they still intended to ruin this plot of land, making it such that steelwood would never grow in this place again. Harming others without benefit to oneself, this kind of act was incomparably despicable. These goddamned bastards, they plan on leaving our Lin family with a useless manor. Qining gnashed his teeth in anger as he cursed. Lin Dong's complexion turned somewhat gloomy. He did not foresee that the Lei family would actually stoop so very low. If the land in the Steelwood Manor was really made barren by the poison, then this manor would become utterly worthless. What do we do now? One of the Lin family guards asked in a low voice. From the present situation, the Lei family had yet to chop down and transport all of the steel wood. After all, the steel wood in the Steelwood Manor was in extreme abundance. Furthermore, steel trees were rather solid and thus not easy to cut down. Therefore, the Lei family was still unable to completely clear out the Steelwood Manor even after more than a month. Even without the steel wood, the trees can still be grown again. However, if the land is ruined, this Steelwood Manor would be no different from a wasteland. Qining growled. Yes. Lin Dong lightly nodded in return. His gaze swept across the area, finding that most of the people were laborers hired by the Lei family and of little threat to their party. Thus his eyes continued to scan about before finally stopping at some figures at the fringe of the crowd. These were the Lei family guards. There are 30 guards from the Lei family, out of which 2 are at the earthly yuan stage. I recognize the leader. He is called Dian, and expanded. It was only later that he became a Lei family guard. His strength is probably equivalent to mine, about that of an earthly yuan early stage practitioner. The other one should also be at this level. Qining furrowed his eyebrows as he quietly informed the rest. In their party, only Lin Dong and him were at the earth yuan stage. However, it was also the first time that Lin Dong had encountered this type of situation. If they really went at it with their lives on the line, it would be very difficult to contend against the other party's earthly yuan experts. 2 at earthly yuan early stage. Lin Dong's eyes flashed as he muttered, Uncle Qining, release the signal to notify my father and the rest. Once we fire the signal, they will discover our presence. Shall we withdraw first? Qining was alarmed. The opponent had 2 earthly yuan stage experts plus more than 10 experienced practitioners. On their side, it was just the 4 of them. If they retreated, Qining could still protect Lin Dong. However, if they directly engaged the enemy, he'd definitely be tight-pressed to ensure his own survival, let alone Lin Dong's. There's no time to retreat. For every bit of poison they scatter, the output of the Steelwood Manor would drop by a portion. Lin Dong shook his head before continuing, when we make our move, leave Dian and the other one to me. You and your men will stop the rest of them. At these words, Qin Ying's expression changed. Did Lin Dong think that he could face 2 earthly yuan early stage experts by himself? Don't tarry any longer, I am not so foolish as to court a certain death. Lin Dong quickly pacified Qining and the rest as if he knew what they were thinking. He did not have the time to explain further. He had already reached earthly yuan middle stage. Furthermore, with the huge amount of yin energy he had absorbed from Qing Tan, the fused yuan power he possessed was much stronger than a normal practitioner. Although he lacked the experience his opponents had, with 2 level 4 martial arts in his arsenal, facing the 2 of them would not be much of an issue. Seeing Lin Dong persist and then once again considering the current situation, Qining clenched his jaw before retrieving a signal flare and igniting it. A bright red light soared into the sky and exploded. In a radius of 1 kilometer, a harsh red glare could be clearly seen. Who? In the instance when the signal was fired, the Lei family guards nearby also became aware of their presence. The leader was a man with a dark expression. He abruptly turned as he fiercely stared at where Lin Dong and gang were hiding. With a wave of his hand, over 10 figures who were scattered around slowly encircled the spot and closed in. Roar! Just as they were closing in, a tiger roar suddenly sounded out and a fiery red shadow burst forth. Fire Python Tiger. The Lei family guards evidently had some discerning eyes among them as they recognized Little Flame instantly. Terrified yells rang out and some of the more timid ones were so taken aback that they pissed in their pants. Don't panic, it's just a young fire python tiger. The man known as Dian was also initially shocked, however he quickly noticed that Little Flame was still young and sternly shouted to his men. 6th brother, you're with me. Let's slaughter this brute together. The rest of you go and catch the other intruders. I would love find out exactly which god-damned bastards actually dared cause trouble in the Steelwood Manor. Dian obviously held a lot of sway among the guards. After he shouted out his commands, the terror in the guards weakened and the other earthly yuan stage expert came to stand beside Dian while wearing a dark and fierce expression. Go! The 2 exchanged a glance and dashed straight at Little Flame in unison. However, when the 2 were still several meters from closing in on Little Flame, a figure abruptly rushed out from its rear and appeared before the 2. A ferocious yuan power suffused with an ice-cold chill ruthlessly attacked the 2. Careful! The sudden attack caused Dian and his partner to be alarmed, but soon after, yuan power also gushed out from their own bodies. Bang! The 3 figures crashed heavily together. A strong force erupted from the clash, causing the rubble on the ground to be swept into the air. The figure which had appeared from Little Flame's back had his body slightly jolted back, but he quickly steadied himself. By contrast, Diane and his partner were pushed back several steps under the astonished gazes of everyone else. SS. Qining and the rest, who were originally preparing to reinforce Lin Dong at any time, involuntarily gasped as they saw the scene. With startled gazes, they stared at the back of the youngster. They never imagined that Lin Dong was able to come out on top even when it was 1 against 2. Worthy of being called the Lin family's most talented individual. Even a notable man like Qining, who constantly faced life or death battles, felt a sense of admiration bubble up in his heart when he looked at the youngster's back. At this moment, he had already forgotten the age gap between the two of them. After all, the only thing worth respecting in this land was power. Attack! Qining quickly commanded after seeing that Lin Dong was able to stop Diane and his partner. The party rushed towards the 10 or so Lei family guards who had surrounded them. With his earthly yuan stage strength, even if they were less in number, Qining was not worried at all. Roar! At the same time, Little Flame once again bellowed as it turned into a fiery shadow and blazed out of the encirclement, directly heading towards the laborers who were still scattering poison about. In response to this devilish-looking monster, the laborers hastily threw away the buckets in their hands and fled for their lives. It's the Lin family. When Diane saw Qining rushing out, his expression slightly changed. An ominous glint flashed across his eyes as he gave a death stare to Lin Dong. "Sixth brother, let's strike together and kill this brat." Diane licked his lips, a murderous intent spilling from his face. Hearing his words, the earthly yuan stage expert Diane had called sixth brother also nodded with a dark expression. The two split to the left and right as if they were savage wolves that had practiced this routine countless times before. Step by step, they crept towards Lin Dong. Gazing at the two who had surrounded him and were steadily approaching, Lin Dong took in a deep breath. This was the first life or death battle in his life. Chapter 55, A Death Match. With ominous glints in their eyes, Diane and his partner slowly approached Lin Dong. Bang! Every step brought them closer and closer to their target. In the next instance, the two of them practically burst forward simultaneously, with vigorous yuan power gathering at the center of their palms. With a force powerful enough to split boulders, two palms, one from the left, the other from the right, chopped towards Lin Dong's head. When the two of them made their move, they revealed their almost perfect coordination. This incoming offensive from both left and right was rather hard for one to deal with simultaneously. Lin Dong concentrated as he gazed at the two who were attacking him, a rare franticness in his heart that was still within his expectations. His left hand formed into a fist while his right took the shape of a palm. Penetrating fist and 8 Desolation's palm were once again executed at the same time. Thud thud. When fist and palm collided, a deep, muffled noise sounded out from the three's hands. In that instance where they briefly contacted, the originally malicious look on Diane and his partner slightly changed. The huge force from their opponent's fist and palm had jolted them to the bone, causing it to ache faintly. However, what astonished them the most was the opposing party's yuan power. It seemed to contain a type of exceedingly icy cold chill which caused waves of stabbing pain to transmit from their skin when they came into contact with it. Go all out, leave no mercy. From this exchange, Diane and his partner were able to perceive that Lin Dong's strength was unexpectedly one tier above their own. However, perhaps due to his tender age, Lin Dong still seemed a little rough around the edges in this life or death battle. Wind-splitting claw. Hidden gentle palm. The duo's martial arts styles changed in a flash, as a violent claw and gentle palm immediately closed in on Lin Dong. Both were vicious moves that strive to hit a vital point completely without even the slightest shred of mercy. Faced with such a ruthless attacks, Lin Dong was initially slightly flustered. However, this state did not last long as he gradually steeled himself and his defensive posture started to improve. Relying on the vigorous yuan power within his body, together with his mastery of martial arts, Lin Dong gradually gained the upper hand as he shifted from defense to offense. In response, Diane and his partner had no choice but to continuously retreat. In a short 10 rounds, Lin Dong's offense gradually shed its rough edges and sometimes, his strikes were even imbued with a trace of ferociousness, causing the two of them to fall into a somewhat difficult situation. Damn, there's something strange about this brat. Faced with Lin Dong's increasingly proficient attacks, Diane's and his sixth brother's expressions turned somewhat pained. During this battle, they could feel that the other party was evolving at an exceedingly fast pace. It was as if they were the whetstone to sharpen his blade. Leave. After another short bout, Diane and his partner realized that they were both dropping to a more and more disadvantageous position. With a decisive shout, they both suddenly retreated. After he saw the two of them retreat, Lin Dong's eyes flashed as he abruptly dashed forward 2 steps. As he curled 2 fingers on each hand, he rapidly stabbed towards their chests. Lin Dong's finger strike was extremely quick and violent. Under Diane and his partner's frightened gazes, deep blue yuan power concentrated at his fingertips before finally piercing at their arms, which had been brought up to block their chest areas. Bang! A deep and low sound rang out when finger contacted arm. Diane and his partner both flew backwards, and on each of their arms, a bloody hole appeared while fresh blood gushed out. To one side, Qining, who was currently taking care of the other Lei family guards, also turned his head when he heard the noise. His mouth twitched upon seeing the two of them falling to the ground, with blood all over their arms. For him to be able to single-handedly defeat 2 veteran earthly yuan early-stage experts, I'm pretty sure that young Master Lin Dong's strength has already reached earthly yuan middle stage. At this point, Qining could not help but sigh. This level of talent truly caused one to feel somewhat powerless. Diane and his partner have fallen, do you still dare to resist like cornered rats? Sighing in his heart, Qining quickly recovered his wits and shouted as he stared at the Lei family guards who continued to resist. After they heard him shout, the Lei family guards' faces changed as their footsteps slowed down. Damn it, where did those dogs come from? To think that they actually dared to stir up trouble in our Steelwood Manor, do they want to die so badly? However, just as these guards slowed down, a thunderous bellow suddenly sounded out from a distance. In an instant, a figure that looked as sturdy as a black tower swiftly approached. Lei Shan. When he saw the black tower-like figure, Qin Ying's complexion abruptly turned 180 degrees, while looks of ecstasy appeared on the Lei family guards' faces. Young Master Lin Dong, quickly fall back. This Lei Shan is an earthly yuan late-stage expert. In one leap, Qining appeared beside Lin Dong and warned him in a low voice. It's too late. Lin Dong shook his head in response. Although the black tower-like figure was quite bulky, his speed was not slow. In a mere 10 seconds, he had appeared within 10 meters of Lin Dong and the rest. Forcefully stepping off the ground, the figure burst forward as a vigorous yuan power hurriedly gathered at his right leg. That arrogant and oppressive force caused Qining's face to pale. Young Master Lin Dong, let's go. Qining grabbed Lin Dong's arm. Just as the former intended to forcefully drag away the latter, he was immediately repelled away by Lin Dong. Pushing Qining away, Lin Dong tightly stared at iron tower-like figure with a fire burning in his eyes. At the same time, his hands rapidly formed into a series of complicated seals. You little bastard, let daddy stomp you into meat paste. The black tower-like figure gazed at Lin Dong, who unexpectedly did not even bother dodging. A malicious smile involuntarily formed on his face as the yuan power undulating on his right leg became more and more concentrated. Lin Dong's expression was serene. As the speed at which the seals changed became faster and faster, within his dantian, a deep blue yuan power also gushed out at lightning speed, before condensing at the center of his palm. D. Just when Lin Dong's seals stopped changing, the sturdy shadow was already right before him. A violent kick ruthlessly smashed towards Lin Dong's head. Bang! As the leg smashed downwards, a deep blue light also burst out from Lin Dong's palm. The bone-chilling chill exploded forth and the light took the shape of a seal before ferociously colliding with menacing kick. A loud and low sound reverberated in the air and Lin Dong was jolted until both his legs sunk half a meter into the ground. However, the sturdy figure was also thrown backwards, and even stumbled a little before falling to the ground. He gazed at the youngster's figure with complete disbelief, evidently unable to imagine that this opponent had actually received his attack head-on. You are that brat from the Lin family? Shocked, Lei Shan suddenly shouted as he stared at Lin Dong. Lin Dong hesitated to find the right words. At this moment, his entire arm was numb. That guy was undoubtedly an earthly yuan late-stage expert. This brat is indeed not an ordinary character. As Lei Shan stared at Lin Dong, his expression suddenly turned sinister. The more talented Lin Dong was, the greater the threat he posed to their Lei family. Lei Shan's mind screamed murder as his foot once again stepped off the ground. Like a raging bull, he charged towards Lin Dong as yuan power bubbled up on Lei Shan's fists. It looks like he was really intending to finish Lin Dong off this time. Get lost. As Lin Dong gazed at Lei Shan, who was charging at him once again, his expression also darkened slightly. However, just as he prepared to dodge the incoming attack, an icy shout suddenly sounded out. Just as the shout faded, a familiar figure appeared in front of Lin Dong. With a simple punch, the bull-like Lei Shan was heavily smashed back with his body dragging against the ground while he flew backwards. Chapter 56, Yang Energy in the Earth. Father. As he saw the figure that appeared in front of him, Lin Dong's mood turned slightly joyful and he immediately greeted his father. You cheeky fellow. I told you to just stay back and observe. How dare you barge into the manor on your own? Naturally, the one who had appeared in front of Lin Dong was Lin Xiao, who had immediately rushed over after he saw the signal. At this moment, he had turned his head and was furiously scolding Lin Dong. Third Master, please do not blame young Master Lin Dong. If he did not lead us into the manor, I am afraid that this Steelwood Manor would have been completely devastated by the Lei family. Qi Ning, who was standing to one side, hurriedly walked over as he pointed at the wrecked forest grounds and explained. Upon hearing these words, Lin Xiao was instantly shocked. As he turned his head towards the direction that Qi Ning was pointing, he saw a black forested which was filled with a nasty smell. Immediately, his facial expression turned extremely ugly. Lin Xiao, though we've lost the Steelwood Manor to your family, before we officially hand it over, this place still belongs to the Lei family. To actually dare and invade this place, have you no respect for our Lei family? Just as Lin Xiao's facial expression turned ugly, an angry shout sounded out from nearby. Following which the Leiing duo, leading about 10 men, rushed over. Humph, if I had not barged in, the Lei family would have completely destroyed the entire Steelwood Manor. Lin Xiao icily laughed as he darkly stared at Lei Ying and the rest. Upon hearing these words, Lei Ying's and Lei Ruo's facial expressions changed. As they stared at the area around the Steelwood Forest district, they furrowed their eyebrows while secretly cursing in their hearts. Third brother, what is going on? Right at this moment, Lin Ken also rushed in together with a few skilled practitioners from the Lin family. Upon witnessing this standoff, he softly asked Lin Xiao. Lin Xiao briefly explained the events. When Lin Ken heard that the Lei family were so despicable that they were planning to destroy even the soil from the Steelwood Manor, though he was usually a calm person, rage instantly filled his heart. After all, this was truly a low blow. The Lei family is truly remarkable. After stalling for so long, you actually plan to completely uproot this area and destroy the land. Lin Ken coldly stared at Lei Ying and the rest as he icily said. To one side, the skilled practitioners from Lin family were now tightly gripping onto the blades and sabers in their hands with steely expressions. They evidently sensed that a huge battle could break out at any time. After their ploy was uncovered, the expression on Lei Ying and the rest's faces turned distorted. They decided not to conceal the truth anymore, and Lei Ying replied in an indifferent manner, "The Steelwood Manor is the fruits of our Lei family's labor. Why should we serve it up to the Lin family on a silver platter?" Upon hearing these words, Lin Ken and the rest grew even more enraged. The Lei family's character is truly admirable. From now on, this Steelwood Manor belongs to our Lin family. If there are any objections, you can raise it up with me. Lin Xiao threatened as a cold light flashed in his eyes. How dare you? At these words, Lei Ying's and the rest's faces twitched. However, when they remembered that Lin Xiao had reached Heavenly Yuan middle stage, they could only choke back their anger. After all, if they fought now, they will definitely get the shorter end of the stick. Heh, since the Lin family is so obsessed over this Steelwood Manor, we shall give it to you. However, please take good care of it. In the end, all of this will eventually return to our Lei family. Lei Ying stared menacingly at Lin Xiao and the rest before he icily chuckled. Without further ado, he immediately waved his hand and departed with the rest of his crew. As they looked at Lei Ying and the rest's backs, Lin Xiao and his group's facial expressions hardly improved. After all, with all the damage inflicted on the Steelwood Manor, the output of Steelwood had definitely dropped substantially. Those goddamned bastards. Lin Ken's face turned red as he cursed them in a low voice. Lin Xiao also released a soft sigh as he said, "Let's inspect the steel tree forest area around the Steelwood Manor and check the extent of the damage." Yes. After hearing his words, the guards from Lin family spread out rapidly and entered the Steelwood forested grounds. After approximately half an hour of inspection, they returned to report their finding. Though their reports only made Lin Ken's and Lin Xiao's facial expression worsen. Standing beside them, Lin Dong also furrowed his eyebrows. There were still several full-grown steelwood trees remaining in this area. However, the biggest loss was that the Lei family had completely poisoned the soil. Therefore, even if they could still plant steelwood trees in the future, the overall harvest would drop tremendously. Sai, let's inform father regarding this matter. The old man really valued this Steelwood Manor. Once he knows about this matter, he will definitely be pissed off. Lin Xiao sighed as he told Lin Ken. Yes. Lin Ken gave a pained smile as he nodded. Right now, this was all that they could do. As he stared at their expressions which were twisted with rage and disappointment, Lin Dong also sighed inwardly. This ploy by the Lei family was truly vicious. Once news of this matter reached the Lin family, in just half a day, Lin Jintian led a group of men to personally inspect the Steelwood Manor. As he gazed at the rotten and foul-smelling forested grounds, his facial expression turned horrendously dark. Lin Dong sat on a cliff and looked down upon a large hall. From that hall, Lin Zhentian's angry roars could be clearly heard. Even though Lin Dong was not seated within the hall, he could not help but shiver a little. After all, this was the first time he had seen Lin Zhentian so furious. Seems like the Lei family had really crossed the line this time. How frightening. Seated beside him, Qing Tan licked her lips as she softly muttered. This time, she had tagged along with Lin Zhentian and the rest. Lin Dong forced out a chuckle before he stood up and said, "Let's go walk around. I believe Grandpa's anger will not simmer down anytime soon. It would be better to let Father and the rest handle this." "Okay." Qing Tan nodded her head as she cheekily smiled. Lin Dong let Qing Tan sit on Little Flame as he led the way into the deeper part of the Steelwood Manor. The Steelwood Manor occupied a huge piece of land and its surroundings were extremely beautiful. If it was not for the faint putrid smell from all around, it would be an exceedingly wonderful summer vacation house. Steelwood Manor has a special dark soil that is necessary to plant steel trees. It is said that a long time ago, the area where the Steelwood Manor is presently located was a volcano and all the dark soil came from when the volcano erupted. Now that the volcano has vanished, the dark soil is a limited commodity. Since the Lei family has wrecked large patches of soil, I am afraid that the steelwood output will fall drastically in future. That's why Grandpa is so angry. In the serene woods, Lin Dong casually explained to the young lady beside him. "Oh." Qing Tan gently nodded her head as she looked around and said, "The temperature here is higher than outside." "Oh?" After hearing these words, Lin Dong was taken aback. Though he tried to sense it, he realized that he was unable to feel the heat. In a flash of inspiration, he suddenly recalled that due to the terrifying chilling cold in Qing Tan's body, she was extremely sensitive to the temperature of her surroundings. This moisture content here is rather high, how can it feel warmer? Just as he figured out the previous question, Lin Dong was again puzzled as he softly muttered to himself. He squatted down and grabbed a handful of black soil with his right hand. Just as his hand touched the black soil, his body suddenly jerked as delight surfaced in his eyes. There is a trace of yang energy hidden within the land here. When Lin Dong grabbed the dark soil, he could vividly feel a suction force emitting from the stone talisman embedded within his right palm. Due to this suction force, a faint stream of air was sucked out from the dark soil. Even though it was only a tiny amount, the air felt burning hot like sunlight. This was something that was completely different from yin energy. This type of thing was commonly known as yang energy and it was absorbed by all heavenly yuan practitioners. How can this be? Lin Dong was puzzled. As there was only a faint amount of yang energy contained within, if he did possess the stone talisman, he would have never discovered it. Nonetheless, it definitely existed. Lin Dong lifted his head and looked further into the depths of this place as his eyebrows tightly knit together. He immediately took a few hundred steps forwards and he grabbed another pile of dark soil. As I progress deeper, the yang energy in the dark soil gets stronger. After he noticed this change, Lin Dong was even more puzzled. Even though the amount of yang energy was rather pathetic, why would there be yang energy embedded in this soil in the first place? Unless, below the surface, there is something emitting yang energy. Therefore, traces of yang energy were mixed into the soil. Lin Dong's eyes flashed as he involuntarily prodded the ground below him. Seems like there was a hidden mystery in this Steelwood Manor. Chapter 57, Yang Yuan Stone. Lin Donga, did something happen? Seated on Little Flame, Qing Tan inquisitively asked after she saw Lin Dong's peculiar actions. Lin Dong waved his hands and did not reply. He lifted his head and somberly surveyed the surrounding before he grabbed soil from north, south, east and west directions in order to test the concentration of yang energy contained within the soil. The soil to the north seems to contain more yang energy. Lin Dong dusted off the black soil on his hands and beckoned to Qing Tan before immediately dashing towards the north. Behind him, Qing Tan immediately urged Little Flame to follow. Human and beast sprinted through the lush forest as Soft's ray of light penetrated through the tree leaves and illuminated the woods. Most of the land in the Steelwood Manor was made up of virgin forests. Upon cursory inspection, it seemed that the Lei family had concentrated their efforts on the steel wood. Therefore, they did not bother exploring the other parts of the forest. After running a short distance, Lin Dong would bend down to grab some soil in order to discern the direction before once again heading off. This search lasted for approximately half an hour before Lin Dong finally stopped. The soil here was extremely dark in color, and when Lin Dong grabbed the soil, he could vividly feel that the yang energy contained within was more highly concentrated than anywhere else. Lin Donga, this place is scorching. Seated on Little Flame's back, Qing Tan's exquisite face was now drenched with sweat. Since she arrived here, she felt as though she had entered a furnace. If Lin Dong had not insisted, she would have left immediately. Just endure it for a while. Lin Dong smiled as he tried to pacify her. He gazed around and discovered that they had nearly reached the end of the woodlands. He could also faintly smell some traces of wild beasts. Instantly, he went on guard while signaling to Qing Tan before he crouched down and slowly walked forward. Moments later, a valley appeared in front of his eyes. As Lin Dong carefully scanned the valley, his eyes quickly concentrated on the two black figures that were hidden deep within the valley. These two figures seemed to be two black panthers. Their entire bodies were pitch black and it looked like they were wearing a suit of black armor that completely covered every bit of their bodies. When the sun shone on them, a glaring light was reflected off and their verdant eyes revealed a savage and cunning temperament. Demonic Black Steel Panther. As he looked at those two black metal-like panthers, Lin Dong involuntarily gasped. These two demonic black steel panthers were demonic beasts and they were equally fearsome as the fire python tiger. A matured demonic panther likewise possessed the same might as a heavenly yuan practitioner. Currently, from their sizes, it was clear that these two creatures were in their prime. Therefore, these two creatures were the equivalent of two heavenly yuan experts. Lin Dong never expected that such deadly creatures were hidden in the depths of the Steelwood Manor. It's no wonder that the people from the Lei family did not dare to venture this deep into the woods. It turns out that there was this kind of danger lurking about. Lin Dong muttered to himself. Just as he planned to silently retreat, a mysterious undulation was suddenly emitted by his right palm that had been placed on the ground. This undulation shocked Lin Dong. Soon after, he carefully bent down on all fours. If the stone talisman vibrated, something must have attracted its attention. Lin Dong placed his right palm flat on the ground as he quietly felt the undulation. Meanwhile, he slowly moved his body in response. It was a long while later before he finally stopped at a slight depression in the ground. As he stared at this slight depression, Lin Dong was somewhat puzzled. Soon after, his fist ferociously slammed down, soil immediately flew in every direction and an inch-wide hole was revealed. It was evident that this hole existed long ago, however it was covered by a layer of soil on the surface. Just as this hole emerged, the undulations from Lin Dong's right palm intensified. After some hesitation, he decided to stretch his hand into that hole and randomly fished about. Seated nearby, Qing Tan looked at Lin Dong, who was now kneeling on the floor and digging rocks and soil out of the hole like a pangolin. An odd expression surfaced on her tiny face as she was evidently uncertain of what Lin Dong was up to. Under Qing Tan's strange gaze, Lin Dong's continued to dig around in that hole for half a day. However, all he managed to uncover were some stray pebbles, and he found nothing of interest. After he dug for a while more, he still did not uncover any treasure. Just as he was so frustrated that he was ready to call it quits, his hand suddenly grabbed onto a warm stone in the hole, and when he clenched the stone in his palm, the undulation of the stone talisman finally stopped. Found it. As he sensed the change in the stone talisman, Lin Dong was delighted. He immediately pulled out his arm as a light red rock appeared before his eyes. That stone did not have defined edges, and was colored a light red. It was also translucent like a crystal. Holding the stone in his hand, he could feel a faint warmth, as if he were holding onto a ball of sunlight. This is a Yang Yuan stone. Lin Dong was lost in a daze as he stared at the light red crystal rock in his hand. Suddenly, he took in a deep breath and a look of awe surfaced in his eyes. Yang Yuan stone was a rather special crystal stone. It was said that it could only be formed in the deepest parts of a volcano. Not only did the crystal stone absorb the yuan energy between heaven and earth, but after bathing in lava in a long time, they also managed to assimilate a part of the yang energy from the lava. This yang energy was akin to the lifeblood for heavenly yuan practitioners. Lin Dong had once heard from Lin Xiao that in the Great Yan dynasty, many heavenly yuan practitioners would carry around a few yang yuan stones. However, these items were not cheap, therefore, they were rarely seen in Qingyang town. Lin Dong had never expected that he would actually uncover a Yang Yuan stone. After all, it was rare for Yang Yuan stone to appear by itself. Due to the special circumstances needed for its formation, anywhere a Yang Yuan stone appears, there would tend to be a lode nearby. This lode could be small or large, however, even if it were an extremely tiny lode, it would still be considered as a massive fortune for the Lin family. This place used to be a volcano. Therefore, it is not impossible for a Yang Yuan stone lode to exist here. Lin Dong's mouth could not help but twitch in excitement. He tightly gripped the Yang Yuan stone in his hand and abruptly stood up. Growl. Just as he stood up, in the valley ahead, the two demonic black steel panthers suddenly growled. Their growl seems to be directed towards his location. We have been discovered. Lin Dong's facial expression changed as he rapidly dashed back and leapt on Little Flame's back. Then, he held onto Qing Tan's slim waist and shouted, "Quick! Let's go!" At his shout, Little Flame let out a tiny grow before it immediately stretched out its 4 limbs and dashed out of the forest like a whirlwind. Sigh, let's first gather some workers to be stationed at this steelwood manor and try to clear up the poison within the soil. As for the rest of the steel wood, let's cut it down first before testing if this area is still suitable for planting steel wood. If it's impossible, let's not waste too much manpower here. In the hall, after an afternoon of howling, Lin Jintian finally stopped his pointless rage as he sat on his chair and solemnly commanded, "Yes." Upon hearing these words, Lin Xiao and the rest forced a smile as they nodded their heads. They were evidently disappointed. Initially, what they thought would be a huge score turned out to be a dud. Bang! When Lin Xiao and the rest were nodding their heads, the door to the hall was suddenly slammed open as Lin Dong immediately barged in. After seeing his dirty appearance and flustered expression, everyone was shocked. Just as they were about to comment, Lin Dong took out a light red crystal rock and heavily placed it on the table in front of Lin Jintian. "Grandpa. This time, our Lin family has struck gold." Chapter 58, Load. Yang Yuan Stone? As he stared at the light red crystal stone that Lin Dong had placed in front of him, Lin Jintian was slightly taken aback. Soon after, he also fished out a red crystal stone from his clothes and realized that it was identical to Lin Dong's. "Haha, you little chap. You are indeed lucky." Lin Jintian chuckled as he grabbed a teacup nearby and took a sip before continuing, "Pass this Yang Yuan stone to your father. It just happens that he has need for it. Grandpa, this was dug out from a deep part of the Steelwood Manor. There is probably a Yang Yuan stone lode hidden there." Lin Dong's face turned slightly flustered. "Spit." Just as Lin Dong finished, Lin Jintian immediately spat out the tea in his mouth. He quickly stood up as he looked at Lin Dong with blood-red eyes, trembling as he spoke. "What did you just say? Yang Yuan stone lode?" Standing in the giant hall, Lin Xiao and Lin Ken were also shocked after hearing Lin Dong's words. They clearly knew how important and valuable these Yang Yuan stones were. For Heavenly Yuan stage practitioners, it was an irresistible item. If they were able to open up this lode, it would definitely be an exceedingly huge treasure trove. Compared to that, the steelwood business had become second tier. Even the Lei family who had been here for several years could never have imagined that hidden beneath this steelwood manor lay such an enormous treasure. Of course, if they knew about it, even if someone were to tempt them with 10 fire python tiger cubs, they would never even consider using this steelwood manor as a wager. Lin Dong nodded. Pointing at the light red crystal rock, he said, "I dug this out from that place. Grandpa, all of you should know that this kind of Yang Yuan stone seldom appears alone." Hugh. Lin Xiao and Lin Qin breathed out deeply as they exchanged a look. Moments later, both of them hoarsely said, "The Steelwood Manor used to be a volcanic region long ago. Hence, it possessed the necessary conditions to create Yang Yuan stones. It is not impossible for there to be a Yang Yuan stone lode nearby. Take me to the place." Lin Zhenqian's breathing sounded hurried as he paced around the giant hall before he urgently commanded. Lin Dong nodded and replied, "However, there are 2 demonic black steel panthers there." "Oh?" After hearing about the 2 demonic black steel panthers, Lin Zhenqian's facial expression changed. Promptly, he gritted his teeth and said, "It doesn't matter. If there is a Yang Yuan stone lode there, let alone 2 demonic black steel panthers, even if there were more, we will utilize any means to get rid of them." Upon hearing these words, Lin Dong nodded his head again. Without further ado, he turned and left the giant hall. He summoned Little Flame and mounted it as he swiftly led the trio of Lin Jintian, Lin Xiao and Lin Ken back towards the deep forest grounds. They traveled at full speed and in approximately 10 minutes, they managed to arrive at the place where Lin Dong had discovered the Yang Yuan stone. It is indeed a demonic black steel panther. As he stood at the top of the valley, Lin Jintian looked at the 2 demonic black steel panthers below as he solemnly nodded his head. These 2 creatures were after all as powerful as a Heavenly Yuan expert. It was going to be troublesome to get rid of them. Lin Jintian muttered to himself before he turned around. Behind him, Lin Xiao and Lin Ken were hurriedly using shovels to dig around the hole where Lin Dong uncovered the Yang Yuan stone. This matter was too important and it would be unwise to get ordinary folk to help out. Therefore, the 2 of them could only personally undertake this task. To one side, Lin Dong involuntarily chuckled after he saw Lin Xiao and Lin Ken digging like laborers. Lin Xiao and Lin Ken did not have the time to bother with Lin Dong. The 2 of them were concentrating on swinging their shovels as they ruthlessly increased the size of the hole. Thanks to the efforts by these 2 Heavenly Yuan stage experts, in approximately half an hour, the small hole that was only inches in depth became a large hole several meters wide. However, what puzzled Lin Dong was, even after they dug such a deep hole, they did not find any other Yang Yuan stones. However, the vibration from the stone talisman embedded in his palm clearly hinted to him that there was something hidden below. The sun gradually set down, sinking below the flat horizon as the gently glowing moon rose in its place. Very soon, the light rays that illuminated the land turned dimmer. "Father, this time, I am afraid that Donger just got lucky." Inside the deep hole, Lin Xiao wiped his sweat as he lifted his head and looked at the tensed-up Lin Jintian, a forced smile on the former's face. At these words, Lin Jintian also sighed as disappointment filled his eyes. It seems like he was overly optimistic. After all, it was not so easy to discover a Yang Yuan stone lode. "Let's call it a day, it's getting late." Lin Jintian waved his hands as a beaten look filled his face. The two in the deep hole, Lin Xiao and Lin Ken, also shook their heads with a pained smile. Things sure didn't go their way today. First, they received a rotten steelwood manor, and now they acted as laborers here for almost a whole day. As he saw their disappointed faces, Lin Dong's eyebrows knitted even more tightly together. He immediately leapt into the giant hole and took the shovel from Lin Xiao, before he proceeded to vigorously attack the ground. Seeing Lin Dong's sudden move, Lin Xiao knew that he did not want to give up so easily. With a gentle sigh, he patted Lin Dong's shoulder. Just as he was about to ask him to relax, a crisp ding sound echoed out at the spot where Lin Dong's shovel fell. In the serene woods, this ding sound was not particularly loud. Yet this sound caused Lin Jintian and the rest to tremble. As one, they turned to look at the area where Lin Dong's shovel had hit. There, they discovered a faint light red glow peeking out from the soil. The three of them stood in a daze as they stared at the traces of red light. A split second later, Lin Jintian directly leapt down. With a wave of his sleeves, a powerful gale emerged and immediately turned over the layer of earth. As the soil was swept away, a bright red glow instantly emerged. What appeared before their eyes was a somewhat translucent light red rock strata. On closer inspection, one could vaguely glimpse chunks of light red crystal stone hidden within the rock strata, like gemstones that sparkled and glowed. Red light reflected of the four faces, and on those faces was a look of delight and awe. "This is truly a Yang Yuan stone lode." Lin Ken foolishly stared at the red rock strata. Suddenly, his body began to tremble violently. Their Lin family would undergo a transformation because of this. The heavens have blessed our Lin family. Lin Jintian looked up to the sky, so overwhelmed that tears trickled off his wrinkled face. Now that they possessed this lode, their Lin family's expansion rate would explode. At that time, besides Qingyang town, even among the entire Tiandu region, their Lin family will boast a considerable status. As he gazed at their elated expressions, Lin Dong finally heaved a sigh of relief. He threw away the shovel in his hand and sat on the rock strata as he bathed in the warmth sensation emitted from it. A derisive smile emerged on his face as he imagined, if Lei Bao knew that there was such a treasure hidden below the Steelwood Manor, would he vomit blood and die in rage? Chapter 59, Killing the Panthers. Lin Jintian chose to securely lock down news of the discovery of the Yang Yuan stone lode. The only ones who were privy to this information were Lin Xiao, Lin Dong, and a few other selected individuals. After all, this matter was simply too important to the Lin family. If they were able to successfully develop this mining lode, their power would undoubtedly rise dramatically. At that time, even the well-known Qingyang town powerhouse, the Lei family, would be unable to hold a candle to them. Of course, before this lode was developed, it must be kept secret. If news of it was leaked to the Lei family, they would employ every means to destroy it. In fact, it was likely that they would directly ally with the Xie family and pulverize the Lin family. 2 days after confirming the existence of the mining lode, Lin Jintian decided to station 50-60 of the Lin family members in the Steelwood Manor. He had done an extremely extensive job of tightening the security of the manor, turning it into a steel fortress. Furthermore, Lin Jintian had also moved thousands of workers from other Lin family establishments into the manor. Most of these people would be assigned to cut the steel trees. However, this was only a cover. Those who were absolutely loyal to the Lin family were secretly transferred to the deep forests, where they would help to develop the mining lode. Of course, they must first get rid of the 2 demonic black steel panthers. If not, the mining operations would never go smoothly. For many years, these 2 demonic black steel panthers had ruled over that particular territory with their heavenly yuan-level strength. Furthermore, their hides were as hard as steel and their reflexes quick as lightning. Even a heavenly yuan human practitioner would find them exceedingly difficult opponents. In order to deal with the 2 demonic black steel panthers, Lin Jintian, along with everyone else, had made ample preparations. Grandfather was even planning to take part in the battle. However, they had to be very cautious, as against 2 demonic black steel panthers, even the slightest slip-up may result in catastrophe. From a high ground at the entrance of the valley, Lin Dong peered down upon the two demonic black steel panthers below. He shifted his gaze as three figures suddenly jumped down from the top of a cliff, the tips of their feet gently bouncing down the walls of the cliff before steadily landing on the valley floor. Growl. Just as the trio of Lin Jintian and two others landed in the valley, the two demonic black steel panthers were alerted by their presence. Deep and low growls immediately sounded out in the valley. I will handle one of them, the two of you take the other. Let's end this fight quickly. If they escaped, it may cause problems in future. Lin Jintian glared menacingly at the two demonic black steel panthers as they leapt vigorously onto some rocks. With a low shout, he immediately dashed forward, a bright yuan power erupting out of his body. Within that forceful yuan power, yin and yang energy seemed to flow in almost perfect harmony with each other. Heavenly Yuan late stage. Based on Grandpa's current strength, he is just one step away from completely harmonizing yin and yang energy to form a Yuan Dan. Lin Dong gently acknowledged his grandfather in his heart as he gazed upon Lin Zhenqian's imposing visage. However, when Lin Dong recalled how difficult it was to step into the Yuan Dan stage, he could not help but furrow his eyebrows. Having heavenly Yuan stage strength was indeed enough for one to be called an elite fighter, yet it still did not reach the level of a warlord that could intimidate an entire region. In the Great Yan dynasty, only those who had advanced to Yuan Dan stage were worthy of such a title. Even though there were only a few heavenly Yuan stage practitioners in Qingyang town, they were not that rare of an existence. For example, in the Lei family, there were approximately 4 to 5 heavenly Yuan practitioners. However, in the entire Qingyang town, there was not a single person who had reached Yuan Dan stage. Based on this fact, it was enough to deduce how difficult it was to synergize one's yin and yang energy and condensed it to form a Yuan Dan. While Lin Dong was distracted, the battle below had already begun. A vigorous Yuan power constantly gushed about, stirring up the gravel and dust on the floor, a level of energy not commonly seen. Though it was tricky to deal with these demonic black steel panthers, based on Lin Dong calculations, he estimated that these two demonic panthers should be at heavenly Yuan middle stage. Since Lin Jintian had long progressed to heavenly Yuan late stage, and Lin Xiao and Lin Ken were both at heavenly Yuan middle stage, they should be able to win this battle easily.